I made this coffee ages ago, and I've been so excited by my new news that I haven't drank it. So it's probably going to be cold. Drinkable. Hello everyone, so today's Friday and something very, very exciting has happened. The proof for the final kind of go ahead for our Dave has arrived. And isn't she beautiful? So I've got the new font on there. I've still yet to proofread it just to double, triple, quadruple check that I've spelt everything right. I'm very, very, very pleased with the print quality of this book. Compared to the one that I got printed from IngramSpark, it's just in another league. I'll just do a quick flick through for you. I've added another couple of pages because I needed to get the page count up to make the spine thickness the right spine, or the right width. Otherwise, if the spine thickness is too if you don't have enough pages, basically, for a 3mm spine, the pages fall out, even if they're glued in. And IngramSpark didn't tell me this. So I've added these 2 pages in. I think it's a really good addition. I like this feature. But the colours, oh, it's so vibrant. I am absolutely in love with this. The paper is silk paper and it's thick. I think we went for 150 GSM in this, compared to the I think it's 90 GSM that we went, no, 70 GSM that we went for with IngramSpark. So that's the highest they allowed. I'll compare them in a minute. I just want to revel in how completely gorgeous this book is. This book is, when I order it, it's going to go straight out to my Kickstarter pledges straight away, and it's going to be released to the general public the end of September. I'm starting to look for independent bookshops to sell in. I'm not going to sell on Amazon. I'm a fiercely independent business, and I love independent shops. And Amazon and big businesses like Amazon, they're just killing the independent sector. Even though they've got things on there now, which is like Amazon Handmade, Amazon Marketplace, they charge so much to the independent sellers that it pushes out people who are actual small sellers in the first place. So I've made the decision, even if it will impact my business, I've made the decision not to sell on Amazon. So if you are an independent bookseller out there, or if you know someone who is, your favourite indie bookshop, please, in the comments or private message me, let me know who they are, and I'm going to contact them, and I'm going to try and get my books into their shops, because I want to uplift the indie industry. I'm an independent publisher. I've published this myself. So in the front of my book you'll see published by Embers and Ink Publishing. This is me. Embers and Ink is my illustration business where I sell uplifting and joyful, eco-conscious and plastic-free art and illustration and gifts and prints, and I've also now branched out into my own book publishing. So when you see Embers and Ink Publishing, that's me. I'm not propping up any big business. I am fully independent. So let me know your favourite bookshops, your favourite booksellers, the indies, the small ones, UK and around the world. Pop them in the comments, let me know. These are the 2 books. This was IngramSpark, and this was my indie bookseller, which is a company called ExWhyZed in the UK. I would recommend them. I'll pop the links down below. I don't want to be on a downer with IngramSpark, because as a company, as a holistic, all-round company, they are very open. They give you lots of information, lots of helpful background information about how the independent publishing industry works. I wouldn't be where I am, knowledge-wise, if it wasn't for IngramSpark. I just think that they're a bit deceitful saying that they can print children's books to the standard of a regular publishing house, because they can't. Right, full disclosure as well, I didn't go for the premium printing option, but the premium printing option wouldn't have got me different paper. It would have just got me more ink on that paper, which would have made the paper more see-through. You would have seen more through the other side of it. Anyway, I couldn't have afforded the premium option, because when you're printing a children's book, it's so expensive. I would have been left with no money at the end of the process, and that's not what I'm doing it for. So I went for the middle option, which was the standard option on 70-weight paper, which I think is what most people would go for. It's what they recommended to go for a children's book. And yes, they print pictures on the pages So in that respect it is a children's picture book, but the quality isn't the same as a normal children's picture book. Hopefully you'll be able to see. So this is the one from my ExWhyZed, this is one from IngramSpark. Obviously the title image is different because I've changed the font, but that was always going to change anyway. So on the front they're not too different. Firstly, you probably won't be able to see the paper quality, but the paper quality with IngramSpark is like office paper. So it's just matte office paper, it's quite thin, it's got creases on it, picks up the creases easily. And can you see how thin the paper is? Hopefully you can see that title through there. Let me just check. Oh, the camera's too high for me to check. But through there you can't just see the back of the page, you can see the page underneath. And with ExWhyZed, you can't. And you see the page underneath there? Also, the pages don't quite align because, like I said in the intro, they didn't tell me that I needed to make the spine thicker. They said this would be the right number of the right size, the right number of pages. Can you see how the spine's split there? And that's because there's not enough pages in there and the glue hasn't adhered properly. So that's a quality problem straight away. But if I just move over onto the same page, so these are the pages I've added, which is great. I hope you can see how vibrant my independently printed book is compared to IngramSpark's. Can you see the difference? And that's not the only difference with these books. I'm going to get a close-up in a minute. And the way that IngramSpark have printed them, it looks like a home inkjet printer. You can see all the little dots that have made up the colour. It looks fuzzy. So it's not crisp. It doesn't look professional. It looks like I've printed this at home and stuck it together with Pritt Stick. Whereas the one that I got printed with ExWhyZed it looks indistinguishable from the other children's books that I've got from other traditionally published publishing houses. This is a nice page to show you. You can see the difference in colours, how vibrant this one is and how not vibrant this one is, how it's fuzzy, how it's see-through. You can see the pages underneath. It's good as a dummy book, but this would be the final quality that bookshops would be getting if they ordered through IngramSpark. And I would be embarrassed having this in a bookshop because it looks homemade. Whereas this one, the paper's glorious, the colours are vibrant, the printing is professional, and it's just a much higher quality, a much higher quality book. So yeah, like I say, I used a company called ExWhyZed, so it's ExWhyZed. I'll put the links down below. There are other companies out there. When I had to start again thinking about my printers and had to look for another printing house, what I looked for was if they could offer me paper that had been ethically sourced, so FSC paper, and also if they had a history of printing children's books. Now ExWhyZed does. They've got YouTube videos showing you through all the children's books that they've printed. They've got a really good selection on their website. They've got setup guides for your PDFs. They're a very transparent company and they'll always reply to your emails as well. That's another thing that you should do while you're looking for a company, because there are lots of companies out there that I looked at, but some of them you think that they were great, and then you'd fire off an email asking, you know, this is the kind of amount that I'm looking for, what kind of unit price can you do for this size and this spec. Some of them won't reply to you at all, and some of them reply with just a questionnaire. What I liked about ExWhyZed is that it was a person, Mike, who was always there at the other end of the email. That is a customer service that I found second to none. So it's Sunday now, and I've been spending the last couple of days just thinking about some advice that I could give you if you are an independent author and you're wanting to self-publish your own book. So, number one, this is very, very important, so pay attention. Buy your own barcode in your own name, either in your name or the name of an imprint that you've made up. So mine is Embers and Ink Publishing, because in my illustration business I sell things under Embers and Ink, so it all fits underneath the same business for tax purposes. buy it in your name. Don't get lulled by these companies like Amazon saying, we'll give you a free ISBN. No. That book will then belong to them because the ISBN is registered in their name. They're registered as the publisher. You lose your rights, you lose your independence. If you want more information on this, I'll pop a link down below to a woman who's really helped me, and she's helped me through her free content, but she does offer paid help too. She's called Monique Mensah, and she runs a company called Make Your Mark Publishing Solutions. Again, I'm not sponsored, these are just people that I found on my journey. But she talks a lot about this. And she's fiercely independent, and she's all about helping independent publishers. And that's the one lesson that I learned from her. Buy your own barcode and put it in your own name. Even some printing houses that I looked at in the UK, one of them said that as part of the printing service, they will buy an ISBN for you. It doesn't say that the ISBN is in their name. And then becomes their book. You lose your rights. Buy your own ISBN. I can't say this enough. Buy your own ISBN. They're not very expensive. You get more value for money the more you buy. So you can buy them as one. You can buy them in bulks of 10 or 50 or 100, I think. I bought mine in a bulk of 10. And in the UK you buy them from Nielsen's. I'll pop the links down below. And in the US I think you buy them from Boca. But Google that, I'm not quite sure about the US market, but they're the places that you buy your ISBNs. In the US and the UK anyway. And it's a very simple process, it's just like an online store, you click however many you want, they'll email them to you. You buy your barcodes separately, so barcodes, it's basically a physical representation of the numbers for a computer system. So technically you don't need a barcode, but a lot of shops will find it useful if you do, because then they can just beep it through the till. And the barcodes are an additional price. I think my barcode was £15. But then it's yours forever, you can use it on all of your books. If you're considering ever releasing another edition of your book, so if you're thinking, I'm going to do a kids book for example, and I want it just to be in paperback, if you're ever thinking you might diversify into a hardback book, or if you have to change any of the books significantly enough that it's another edition, or if you want to do an audio book, you need a different ISBN for each of those. So it might be worth your while buying a bulk of 10. So that's what I did, because I bought a bulk of 10 because I know I've got books that I want to write in the future, but also it kind of covers me for if and when I need to re-edit this, or if I want to bring it out as a special edition hardback for an anniversary, for example. Just covers you. But yeah, number one, buy your own ISBN in your name. Okay, number two is really think about the book size and price, because really you don't want to be pricing your book above market value. And usually when you're making your own things, when you're if you're an independent business for like jewellery or illustration or whatever, you price accordingly to its worth. Sorry, I had a bit of dust. You price accordingly for its worth, but with books you really don't want to go over the price for similar books in your genre, because when you're in a bookshop, people will overlook it. They will go for the cheaper option, usually. And you're very lucky if they don't. So my book is a children's picture book, and I looked at the books in my genre. I saw that very rarely do you get very big books. The books tend to be square. Sometimes you'll get them landscape or portrait, but usually the ones that I kind of want this book to sit alongside are square. So have a look at the book size. Make sure that it's not too big for your genre or too small for your genre. If I'd have done this any smaller, I think it would have been too small for the genre. I could have probably got away with it being bigger, but obviously the price increases the bigger you go. So I stuck with this. Another good reason I went for this size, this is 203 by 203 millimeters. And it worked out quite well, because when I was scanning my images in, because I did everything myself, when I was scanning my original art in to then edit for the book, it meant that I could use my A4 scanner. So I did all of my pages on A4. So I did each page separately, scanned them in on my A4 scanner. If I'd went any bigger than this, I would have either needed to photograph my art, which leads to a whole host of problems itself, or pay someone to scan it on an A3 scanner. Because I wasn't going to buy an A3 scanner, because I looked into that and they're dead expensive. So think about the size of your book and the price of your book, and make sure it sits alongside books in your genre. There is a temptation to add money on to the retail prices to think you'll get more money back, because printing a kid's book, in particular a children's picture book, any kind of picture book, a picture book, is expensive. You've got full colour, 4-colour prints on each page. You've got high quality paper. It's an expensive process. At the end of the process, once you've taken into consideration your unit cost and any discounts you're going to give, like wholesale discounts you might give to bookshops, you're not really left with a lot per book. But making your retail price higher might seem like a fix to that, but if it's higher than the unit price for your genre, people aren't going to buy it. So even though your unit price is higher, you're not going to get as many sales and you're still not going to get as much money in your bank. Number 3 is really think about your printers. So the choices that you've got as an indie author are print on demand, or POD, which is often abbreviated to. So print on demand printers on one hand, or traditional offset printing. And that's just a fancy word for buying them all in bulk to get the unit costs down. There are pros and cons of both. So I originally was going to do print on demand through IngramSpark. And I don't want this to be a downer on IngramSpark. They've got loads of good information, loads of free information for authors. I would go and check them out. They're a really great resource. And if you're publishing a traditional text-based book without pictures, I'm assuming they'll be brilliant for you. They're just not very good in terms of children's books for what I was looking for. I was looking for a professional quality book. So I was originally going to go with IngramSpark. So the way that works, they keep costs down because they've got printing outlets all around the world. So to cut a long story short, bookshops and individuals can put an order directly in with IngramSpark. They'll print the book out in the printer that's nearest to the order. So if the order's in India, they'll print the book out nearest to the Indian address or the American address or the Irish address and send it out there. They'll save money on postage and it just allows a bigger reach. The downside is the quality. You've got lots of different printers out there which how can you guarantee consistency? You can't. And B, to keep costs down, they don't offer the same spec usually that a traditional printing house would. Not a traditional printing house, but like if you printed it, if you paid to have it printed in a printing house. What am I saying? I don't know. And I found that out when I got my proof copy of our Dave from IngramSpark. I was all set to be supporting IngramSpark all the way, and it looks like I've printed out PDF, cut it out and stuck it together with Pritt Stick. Really. And I'm not just saying that. I really wanted this to be, I wanted to be singing IngramSpark's praises. So I didn't buy this. I didn't buy from IngramSpark thinking, oh, this will be a good way to show that the big business isn't all that. I wanted it to work. It would have been easier for me if this was brilliant. It's just not. It's okay. And I didn't want an okay book. I wanted a brilliant book. And now I've got it. So the way I did it was what you'd call a traditional offset printing, which is where you don't buy the books on demand, you buy them in a big bulk. So my first order, my first edition is 400 copies. And yes, I have to pay hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds. But when you divide that money up by 400, you get the unit cost. So the cost of the 400 books, divide that by how many you got and you've got the unit cost. And my unit cost is okay per book. I was lucky because Kickstarter, or a crowdfunding campaign, allowed me the money to buy those books out up front. If I hadn't had that option, I wouldn't have been able to order it, especially with COVID. I've got no money at the moment. So it's a really good option to traditionally offset print, because you know all of your books have been printed on the same printer, on the same machine. You know that they're all going to be consistent in that respect, and you've got that control. You've got control over the paper type, you've got control over who you work with, you've got control over the quality of the print, the size of the book. Basically, traditional offset printing gives you more options. Print-on-demand printing is often more restrictive, because obviously they're trying to get consistency from all of their printing machines around the world. So their scope is usually narrower, because they're trying to offer the same thing everywhere. But when you traditionally offset print, you're in control. But the downside is it is expensive, but like I've said, Kickstarting and crowdfunding is a really good option for getting the money you need to keep that control. And also Kickstarters, well, in my opinion, I found that it was a really good way of building hype for the book and marketing the book. A lot more people got involved in the book than I thought they would. Loads of people who I don't know. 50% of my target market, 50% of my pledges on Kickstarter, words are hard, I didn't know them. They came from places I didn't know. They found me through Kickstarter. So it's a really good way of broadening your appeal as well. So yes, think about your printer and your printing options, and don't settle for anything less than the quality that you want. Okay, number 4, invest in the software that you're going to need to format your book, or pay someone who has that software and who can perform the formatting for you. So the industry standard for formatting and gathering together everything into the way a book should look is InDesign. And it's an Adobe product. I'm not sponsored, it's just what I use. I do use it, I have bought it. I started it on a free trial. When I first got my first format done for IngramSpark, I did it on a free trial. There's tutorials on there telling you how to make it work. You do need to invest time, a little bit of time, depending on how quickly you're comfortable with computers, and depending on how quickly you kind of learn things. It might be more time or less time, but you do need to invest a bit of time working out how to make it work. But you can do it on your own. I've done it on my own. So if it can be done, you can do it. It just depends whether you're willing to invest that time and effort into doing it. If not, there are people you can pay to format your book for you. I'll pop some details down below of places that you might want to start. The lady I mentioned earlier, Monique Mensah, her company Make Your Mark Publishing Solutions will do all that kind of stuff for you. And there are other people out there too who will do that. But basically, if you're going to do it yourself, a lot of printers, to make it easy, because independent printing and publishing is on the rise, so a lot of printing houses, to make it easy for people who are doing it themselves, they will provide guidelines on how to set up your PDFs. So once you've formatted the book, you need to export it as a PDF print and make sure that you've got all the right crops and bleeds and margins. And to do that, a lot of printing houses will give you guidelines, they'll give you walkthroughs on how to do that. And because the industry standard is InDesign, it shows you how, step by step, how to do it in Adobe InDesign. So even though there might be other companies out there, other software out there who can provide the same service, it might not be as easy to get the right PDF specs. So there might be a lot of back and forthing. But you can get free trials. I think I got mine for a 2-week free trial on Adobe. Have a look at them, I'm sure there's always options. Like I say, not sponsored. But yeah, either invest in the software or invest in someone who can format your book. Because the formatting of the book, that's something, if it's done badly, that's one way that you can tell that this is a homemade book. Just because you're doing it yourself, you don't need people to know, just by looking at it, that this is a homemade book. That's not a compliment. So yeah, formatting, look into the formatting of how other books are laid out. Where's the image, where's the text, how big is the text, how big is the image. Make sure it's not all too close to the edge as well for when you're cropping it. But yeah, so invest. And my last tip, tip number 5, is to edit, edit, edit. Keep editing. Even if you think you're finished, edit, 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 edit. And you can pay people, and it is recommended to pay for editors. Now there are lots of different editors out there. I've written down some types. So there are beta editors, proofreaders, content editors, developmental editors, copy editors, and you can spend a lot of money doing this process. Depending on how confident you are. I mean, I've got a background, I've worked in a publishing, it sounds really knobby for me to say, but when I was at university, I studied literature. And because I kind of thought I wanted to work in the publishing industry, I found an independent printing house in York where I lived. It was called Papers. I don't think it's a thing anymore, but it was a lady called Magdalena, and she published her own books, and then she decided, well, I'm doing this myself, I might as well do it for other people too. So she set up Papers, and I got some work experience there, and I used to work there. So I'm quite comfortable looking through work and editing it from my literature days, because I got a master's and a bachelor's in literature. Ooh, get me! I used to want to be a writer. I used to do lots of short stories. I've got form editing my own work, like essays, dissertations, stories, you know, poetry. I've done it, and I've worked in a publishing house. I kind of know the process. If you're not comfortable with that, pay someone. It's really, really important. But before you do pay someone, try and edit it as much as you can yourself. The best piece of advice that I got from when I was studying literature was from my personal tutor, Roger Clark. You're amazing if you're watching. And it was, when you think you've finished writing your essay, you haven't. Read it out loud. Don't read it in your head, because you know where all the pauses are, and you don't read it like someone else would read it. Read it out loud. Read it out loud a couple of times. You'll find where your words don't flow. You'll find where you need full stops. You will probably see where you need like punctuation as well, like capital letters, full stops, commas, apostrophes. My next thing on that is get someone else to read it, because like I just said, you will know where you're putting the stress in your, like mine's a rhyming book, so I know where my line of rhyme ends. So some words could be at the end of one line or the beginning of another, depending on, I know what I mean. But basically, get someone else to read it and make sure that the words make sense and fit in with your rhyming pattern if you've got one, or just to make sure that they flow and they work and other people know what you mean. So get as many people as you know to read it as you can. And this will help you get your book to a place where you can either send it to an editor, or you can start, you know, running it through software to check for spelling mistakes, for grammar, for punctuation. If you're not confident on all that kind of stuff, like there and you know, putting the apostrophe for it's or it is or all that kind of stuff, I would recommend paying someone and finding someone to do that. So there we go. If you are an independent author and you want to publish your own work, just believe in yourself. Like, you can totally do it. Self-publishing is on the rise. It's a more accepted way of getting your book out there. You're in control. You have the vision to bring it to life. Don't let your vision kind of go. You've got to keep hold of your vision and don't compromise it. So believe in your own worth, and don't always go for the cheapest option, because it's not always going to get the best results. Always know that there's a community out there. You can always reach out to me if you need some help, if you need some advice, or go and have a look on the internet for people who are offering the same kind of thing. Educate yourself and teach yourself. You can do this. You don't need to be reliant on big business. We can do this together. We're such an awesome community. And the last thing that I'd like to say is, don't be afraid to change your plans. I mean, like I say, I'd quite set my heart on going with IngramSpark and repaying them for all of the free content that they've given me. But it wasn't what I wanted, and I had to change my plans. I didn't want to do a Kickstarter. I was scared by it. I was terrified by the idea of running a crowdfunder. What if I do it wrong? What a big responsibility to have this amount of money and this amount of responsibility for people's post going out in one go. Like, can I do it? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can do it. It's actually quite easy. The hard bit is sitting and thinking about it. So Believe in yourself, you can do it. We're an amazing creative industry. And if you need help, ask for it. Ask for help. We are in this business and we're doing everything ourselves. We're not meant to always know everything straight away. If you don't know it, it's fine. Learn, take a tutorial, go in Skillshare and have a look, see if someone's teaching about it. Find someone on Instagram who's giving out free content. Reach out to me. I mean, just be confident and know that we're in the same boat. Okay, don't forget, I am on the lookout for your best independent bookshops. Let me know in the comments below if they are worthy of your attention, they are worthy of my attention. So pop them down below and I will try and contact them and get in touch and try and get my book in their shops, because I don't want to prop up big business. I want to champion this small independence. So let me know. If you can pop a web address as well, that would be brilliant, because it just makes it so much easier for me to find it and to make sure I've got the right one. I want your awesome ones, the awesome independents who go the extra mile for you, because that's what it's all about, being an independent, going the extra mile, being personal, letting the individual shine through. So if you've got any suggestions, let me know. So I'm going to leave that video there. I hope it's been helpful. If you are on the journey to writing your own book, self-publishing, self-marketing, all that kind of stuff, let me know. Give me a shout out down below and let's have a chat. But until next week, I'm going to leave that there. So bye bye.